On today's edition of Andy Ari On3, is this Brent Venables' biggest game at Oklahoma as Michigan and Oklahoma alum Sherrone Moore come to town to face the Sooners? Also, John Ewing, the insights manager from BetMGM, will join us to talk about some of the craziest betting trends, including one that you may need to know about teams that lost but stayed in the top 10, and there's two of those this week. Also, this is the day we answer your questions. Dear Andy, dear Ari, great questions about the situation at Alabama, about which Big 12 and ACC teams could succeed if they had Big 10 or SEC money. And also, why is USF called USF? All of that on today's edition of Andy and Ari. We are brought to you by BetMGM, and if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, download that app now. Use the bonus code CFB as in college football, CFB, and you'll get up to $1,500 off your first bet offer on your first wager at BetMGM. Here's how it works. Download the app and sign up using the bonus code CFB. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. You'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use the bonus code CFB when you sign up. Also, if you've already signed up, we've got a Parlay Boost token, CFB, college football Parlay Boost token. No matter where the college football action is, there's nothing like getting in the game and leveling up your next parlay. Use this Parlay Boost token to boost your potential payout from a winning college football parlay on September 5th or 6th, so Friday or Saturday of this week. Also, September 5th and September 6th, a college football no sweat parlay token. Go for the end zone without breaking a sweat with a college football no sweat parlay token. You get your stake back in bonus bets if you don't win. So sign up for BetMGM today. Use the code CFB and get yourself in the action. Make this college football season one for the history books. Make it legendary with BetMGM. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only. U.S. promotional offers are not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 in New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona. Call 1-800-327-5050 in Massachusetts. Call 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa or 1-800-981-0023 in Puerto Rico. First bet offer for new customers only, subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use the bonus code CFB and get your $1,500 first bet offer today. Welcome to Andy and Ari On 3. We are almost there to the games of week 2. The NFL starts tonight, so it's going to suck a lot of the oxygen out. The Cowboys and the Eagles opening the season in the NFL, in the senior division of football. But, Ari, we got to talk about a massive game in Norman, Oklahoma. And obviously, we picked the Oklahoma-Michigan game, but we really haven't had a chance to break it down. And I just wanted to point out our pal, George Stoya III, who works for Sooner Scoop. We have, obviously, wonderful team sites here at On3, the Wolverine for Michigan. Sooner Scoop is the Oklahoma team site, and George is the beat writer for Sooner Scoop. He's one of the best beat writers in the country, does a great job, and he had a really interesting column that came out this week about this being Brent Venables' biggest game at Oklahoma. And Ari, you and I went back and forth about Kalen DeBoer at Alabama and that situation. This is a much different situation. Kalen DeBoer obviously is under pressure, but Brent Venables is under massive pressure. This is year 4. He's had one good year and 2 bad ones, and Oklahoma does not tolerate mediocrity for long. So this is a massive game for him. Do you think it is the biggest game of his tenure so far?
Well, I was just trying to think back at games that they've played in the past, and I think obviously Texas is going to jump to the front of mind. But Brent has, had one solid to good year. So I'm trying to think back to that year if there was a bigger game. But in terms of for him,
they beat Texas that year, so obviously that's his biggest win so far at Oklahoma.
But going into it, was it a bigger game than this one? I mean, for other reasons outside of the rivalry, I don't recall the stakes of that. But I do think that it's kind of hard to figure out a way that something could be more important to him personally than a game like this in a year in which people think he could be fired. And I think part of the reason why this is such a big game for Oklahoma is that Michigan is a very nice looking helmet. It is a team that has national recognition in terms of recent respect, having won the national title 2 years ago, but it's a winnable game. You're playing against a team that is good, but not, from what we understand or think, totally great. And if you are supposed to be in a position to compete in the SEC, this is a game that you win at home in year 4 of your tenure. So I think that like that in and of itself, of like your 6-point favorite, 5.5 point favorite, this is the ultimate litmus test of like, is Oklahoma going to be, because like fans don't need them to be excellent this year or perfect. They need them to be pretty good or really good or way above average. And like you're playing a team that's above average, you have to win this game at home.
And we don't really know what Michigan is either. That's what's so interesting about this. We're going to talk to John Ewing, the insights manager from BetMGM, later on in the show about how the money's moving in this game. And it's very interesting. Obviously, Michigan is a team that the public will bet on a lot because Michigan is a massive alumni base, a huge brand. But the Sharps seem to be pretty high on Oklahoma in this game, which is why the line keeps moving more toward the Sooners. Ari, Michigan's bringing in a freshman quarterback in Bryce Underwood. They are, this is still a fairly young team. They're going to bring in a very good defense. This is a team that this defensive line will tell us whether Oklahoma's offensive line is built to compete with the other teams it needs to compete with, because Michigan's defensive line is still elite. And if Oklahoma's O-line can hold up against them, then it gives you hope that Oklahoma's O-line can hold up when they have to play Texas, when they have to play Alabama, when they have to play Ole Miss, when they have to play LSU. Oh my God, the schedule's hard. But that's what we're going to be looking for here.
Yeah, and also before you get into that stretch of like every single time you talk about Oklahoma and you start like feeling good about them, you look at their schedule and you're like, oh my God. Like it's like we know that it's hard, but when you look at it, it is shocking as if you're looking at it for the first time every time, which is how you know it's really hard. But this is a game before you get into the crux of that unbelievably difficult.
By the way, I didn't even mention Auburn, South Carolina, Tennessee, or Missouri, all of which could potentially be like 8, 9, 10 win teams.
Right. Texas, South Carolina, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Alabama, Mizzou, LSU, all on the road to close the year. That's more than half of their season all in a row. And that doesn't count Michigan and Auburn in the front half of the season. So, but like right now, you're not beaten up yet. Knock on wood. My table's made out of wood. Oklahoma isn't injured yet or injured at all. I know they've have some people banged up, but it's not, as dire or nearly as dire.
Well, they're getting a couple starting offensive line, projected starting offensive linemen, because they didn't start the season opener, but they're getting a couple of those guys back this week. So I think they feel pretty good about where they are health-wise.
Here's the reality of it. If Oklahoma loses this game, there's no excuse. There's no injuries. There's no coordinator to blame. They're just not good enough. Like, I think like this is a look in the mirror game, right? Mm-hmm. Like, so, and you're not playing Texas. You're not playing Georgia. You're not playing what we thought Alabama was going to be. You're playing a team that has players and a good defense, but a team that has a freshman quarterback that's pretty good that you should be able to handle. I've been saying that Oklahoma is going to win this game all summer. And I like that the spread is 6, and I like that the Sharps are on that spread. But, like, we're not sure what Oklahoma is until we see it. And I know that John Mateer had, like, some of the most efficient stats you'll ever see in a college box score. But from what I was reading, a lot of Oklahoma fans were a little upset about the way it looked. So this is a prove-it mirror game, I think is the way I would put it.
And for Venables, you've got to be able to win this game more because it proves what you can do the rest of the season. And look, if you lose this game by a couple of points, it doesn't doom your season, but it also doesn't give you a lot of confidence as you go into games against Auburn and against Texas and against South Carolina and against Tennessee and against Missouri and against Ole Miss and against LSU. Oh my God.
It happened again.
Yeah. Seriously, like what did they do to piss off the SEC office?
I mean, at some point, Oklahoma in the future is going to get payback in the positive, right? Like Missouri is going to get absolutely tanked.
One would hope, but they are going to completely revamp the schedules next year because they're going to 9 conference games. So if they'd stayed at 8, yes, Oklahoma and Florida and LSU and the ones that had the harder draws were going to get the easier draws, and then Texas and Missouri.
But now they're blowing the whole thing up.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
So I think that somebody, maybe this is an off-season column. We're in the middle of going into week 2 here. But hopefully when they revamp the schedule, they still keep in mind who got screwed and who got, like Texas and Oklahoma have polar opposite schedules the last 2 years.
Yes.
Florida's had a bad one.
Mississippi State's had a bad one.
Mizzou's had a pretty good one.
Yes.
And hopefully that, like, if we can recall it, because we don't know the schedules off the top of our heads, but like I can recall who's had an easier run of it and who's had a harder run of it. Hopefully the people who are putting together the schedule will give credence to
Tennessee's
that.
Another one that got a favorable one these last 2 years. So, I think it would be nice if they considered that, at least for the sake of the folks in Oklahoma, because that was a rude welcome to the SEC with that schedule. But Michigan, also a very exciting team, because I think this will tell us a lot about Sherrone Moore. And remember, Sherrone Moore probably wouldn't be coaching this game if it wasn't against Oklahoma, because they engineered his 2-game suspension for this year for the NCAA stuff so that he could coach in this game. He will then be suspended for the Central Michigan game and the Nebraska game. So this is a big one for Sherrone Moore too. And obviously you went and got Bryce Underwood to fix the biggest glaring problem from last year's team, and that was that you could not throw the ball. Ari, do you think they're going to be able to throw the ball effectively against Oklahoma's defense?
I think they'll be better than they were last year, but they're not going to be exceptional. I think that's kind of where I view Michigan as a team going into the year. And last weekend when we were at the Clemson LSU game, we were trying to follow along with some of these games, and like the ESPN game tracker wasn't working. So like I tried to pull a Peacock on my phone and I saw glimpses of this. Like Michigan kind of looked out of sorts to me last week. And Oklahoma at times I think did too. I really, really like the under in this game, to be honest with you. Like, I think this is going to be a low scoring defensive slugfest.
46 and a half feels really high for these two teams. Yeah.
Doesn't it? Like 20-17 is the type of score I think I'm thinking here, or 21-14 or 21-17. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think that either offense is going to light it up, because I have a lot of respect for what Michigan does defensively too. But like, we saw first year starting quarterbacks last week struggle a little bit, didn't we? And like we were talking about your college football playoff projections and who to put in. And, anybody who knows anything about college football knows how incredibly difficult what Andy does every Sunday is, especially early in the season without a lot of context. And from what I recall, you went with a lot of teams that had veteran guys based on what we saw last week. And I think that it's easy to get caught up in the hype and remember that, Bryce Underwood made all this money in NIL and he's not like other freshmen and all these things. It's like he's going on the road to play in a very hostile environment against a very talented defensive minded head coach. Like, you'd think he's going to go in there and throw for 350 yards. I don't think so. So like, and I think that's part of the reason why Oklahoma is in an important situation right now, because if you can't get it done against Michigan, then what's going to happen when you play Texas when they found it? What's going to happen when you play against those animals in South Carolina? Like, there's a lot of different, I think South Carolina on the surface right now is probably better than Michigan if I had to pick between the two teams. Like, if you go down the back half of Oklahoma's schedule, how many teams on the back half of that schedule would you think Michigan is better than?
Which I think is what George's point is with this column, is why there's so much pressure on this. You got to be able to win a game like this, or you're not going to be able to win most of the games on the back half of the schedule.
And they're not like Alabama, where if they lose a game, you go, well, they're Alabama. There's people out there that are like, well, they're Alabama. They're going to bounce back. Right. And that was, we got,
well, we haven't been like that this week either. So,
but Oklahoma is more like, and every team gets better as the year goes on. So nobody is under the impression that Oklahoma is the final version of itself right now. But we also are relatively unknown about what Oklahoma and Michigan are, right? Like, we spent all offseason theorizing what they could be and what good and bad cases would look like. but this is the first time for both teams where it's like you're going to get a pretty good idea of what their starting point is. And if their starting point is, to borrow Dabo Sweeney's, they're getting the final exam in the second class, you can't score a 58. Like, you want to score a 70 and win and be like, okay, we didn't play our best football. We beat Michigan. Now we have something to build off of going into the SEC play. You come on here and you fall flat on your face, Andy, and it's a really, really bad proposition for him. And like Sherrone Moore can lose this game and whistle home.
Yeah, Sherrone Moore is fine. Yeah.
So from a pressure standpoint, like, I can't imagine like what Brent Venables is feeling as he eats breakfast on Thursday, September 4th, which is also my brother's birthday, and I just remembered that.
Happy birthday. By the way, now that I'm thinking about it, because we mentioned Sherrone Moore is absolutely fine. How much goodwill did beating Ohio State last year win Sherrone Moore?
A lot. We haven't talked about this because we don't like to put people on the hot seat before they're on the hot seat. Like, it's just kind of bad form. But I am kind of uncertain about what Sherrone Moore's, how much slack he has before people start.
I think he was going to get a pass last season because of the timing of the Harbaugh exit and everything else. But then he was getting mostly a pass for a pretty bad season by Michigan standards. And then he beat Ohio State and it became not as bad of a season. It became a much
Alabama
better
too,
season.
right?
Yeah, Alabama, and beating Alabama in the bowl game obviously was a big deal too.
But let's just play, because we're talking about this game, and I think that it goes without saying that Oklahoma's under a ton of pressure. But let's say Michigan goes 8-4 this year, which would be, against their schedule, not a great season. Do we go into the offseason saying that Sherrone Moore is under pressure?
Yes, 100%.
Okay. Because it still feels like very honeymoonish, because last year was not a complete season. Harbaugh retired late. They were coming off a national title. He played a key role.
But Ohio State extended the honeymoon because he would have been under more pressure this offseason without that win.
Yeah, if Ohio State would have won 42-14 or something, it would be a completely different scenario. Because I think that people would have been happy with him if they played a competitive game that they could win in the fourth quarter. The fact that they won definitely extends a lot of goodwill, but I do wonder, because people in Michigan got a taste of winning, and you know what happens when you get a taste of winning. The NIL money comes out, you get more aggressive, you go sign Bryce Underwood, your classes get better, and your expectations remain high. And while he did play a huge factor in Michigan's wins, how much do you think of the national championship season and the wins that he got while Harbaugh was suspended play a factor in his
also massive,
massive, right? So
yeah,
I think he might actually get an extra year or maybe even two of leeway that other coaches in his position, if he were hired from the outside, would have gotten in the same situation. So, but I was down on the way things were going last year, but not totally down, as you pointed out in a great column from a game that we covered against Texas last year in the beginning of the year. He had personnel issues that he didn't really have much, ability to fix on his own given the timing. But man, you want them to be good, right?
Well, it wasn't just it was staff issues. It was and you got to blame him for hiring. If we're going to blame Brent Venables for hiring Seth Luttrell as the OC last year, which Brent Venables came out and said in November, I hired the wrong guy. You also have to blame Sherrone Moore for who he hired. And now they've revamped the staff. And so again, if this doesn't work offensively, if they still can't throw the ball, that falls squarely on Sherrone Moore. He doesn't get a pass on that this year. So there is pressure on him too in this game. It's just not nearly as much as it's on Brent Venables. And I cannot wait to watch this thing. It's going to be so much fun. You talk beautiful helmet matchup, beautiful uniform matchup, beautiful environment. Guys, schedule more of these freaking games. I'm not talking about Michigan and Oklahoma. Michigan and Oklahoma do schedule good out-of-conference games, evidenced by the one they're playing. Everybody else, schedule these. Do them on campus. Don't do them in a neutral site. Do them on campus.
We haven't had a discussion about that, Andy, and I don't know if this is a nice segue to a quick 3-minute discussion about it, but are you
sure
at all down on neutral site games? Because I saw a lot of people are like, why are we doing this year?
Everybody's always down on neutral site games. Campus is better. We got the experience we were at Clemson for the LSU game. We then were in Atlanta at Mercedes-Benz Stadium for South Carolina, Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you have rather have been in Blacksburg or Columbia for that game? I would have.
Yeah. But I don't hate neutral sites. I think they're cool.
I don't hate it, but if it's the only way to get the game played, fine. But I'd much rather it be on campus. Like that environment at Clemson was electric. It was perfect.
Yeah. Clemson was a 10 out of 10, but we got to do something about like escalators or something. Like, I don't know what. I'll never forget that.
Ari doesn't like the hills that you got to climb on Clemson's campus. I always joke that the Clemson students, you can tell them by their incredibly jacked calves because they're just walking up and down hills all day.
You know, I think that
very steep hills on that campus.
I think hills are fine when it's nice out. When it's really, really hot, it sucks. And you're wearing pants because I am always in my head about like I have to wear pants to a football game. I've never worn shorts to the game.
Well, you wore jeans. Why don't you wear lighter pants?
I should have worn lighter pants. Yeah. I'm not saying that I'm not to blame for it, but have you ever worn shorts to a game?
Probably in my younger days. I will point this out. This is my favorite thing my wife and I notice at theme parks. When people wear jeans to theme parks when it's 95 degrees outside and 1,000% humidity. Like, why? I mean, you are just asking to suffer. Like, that's your own stupidity right
You're
there.
In a semi-professional
you have other options.
So I went with jeans because we're going to be professionals. But like,
they make jeans to a theme park. Jeans are not a professional pair of pants, Ari. Slacks are a professional pair of pants.
No, I was wearing Faraday taper jeans. They're nice.
Okay, expensive jeans are still not professional. They're just jeans.
I mean, you know, we're not going to, we want to talk about this because I think that you're wrong about that. People wear jeans in all sorts of professional environments, especially like the sports writer icon look is sport coat with jeans. And I've never worn a sport coat to a game. But anyway, yes, I know what you're saying. I could have worn slacks.
You could wear thinner pants.
I think that's all I'm saying. The point of what you said needs to be emphasized is if you wear jeans to Disney World in July, you're a psychopath.
You're an idiot.
Like, what's wrong with you? Yeah.
You're an idiot. All right. We got a lot more show. John Ewing, the insights manager from BetMGM, joining us very shortly. First, we got to talk about Panini. Ari, you got a care package from Panini.
I did.
Care to show us what you found?
Yeah, they sent me 4 boxes of the Luminance football series. They even sent me a little packet here to like express to you like what's so good about the Luminance package. I already know the talking points, but I'm going to open it up and be a good guy anyway. You get 10 cards per pack with 4 packs in the box. 12 boxes are in the case, and you get it's like the first 2025 product where you can get rookies that were just drafted with logos of the teams they were selected by on the back of the card. Because that's the thing. You know, the draft happened a few months ago. It takes a lot of time to get the pictures of them in their pro uniforms and stuff. So a lot of these rookies are still in their old uniforms from college, but you get the teams that they're on, which is huge. So they sent me 4 hobby boxes, and I got a lot of like pretty big cards, and they have some NIL, players in there too. For instance, this Luminance J. Michael Sturdivant, who's on Florida now, right, Andy? And he's very good.
That's him in his UCLA uniform, but he is now playing for the Gators, and they expect very big things from him this season. Very big receiver, outside receiver type guy. So that is a good.
This is the big thing with Panini. They've gone all in on NIL, so you can get players before they're in the NFL or been drafted. And look at this bad boy I pulled. Caleb Downs. Next era auto. So I put that in the top loader. I got a Quinshon Judkins. He's on the Browns. Now you get the Browns logo on the back. Jalen Noel from Iowa State, one of the great Iowa State receivers last year. Caleb Johnson, the Iowa running back, who's now going to have a pretty good year, I think, in Pittsburgh. You've got the Steelers logo on the back.
I mean, he doesn't even look like the uniform won't even look any different.
Yeah, and here are the three biggest ones, or the ones I was most excited about. The Caleb Downs one too, for sure. But this is a Ryan Wingo. I'm pretty high on him, as you know. That's an NIL card of him in his Texas uniform signed. Then this is a rookie, Colston Loveland from Michigan, who's now on the Chicago Bears. This one's numbered to 50, I believe. Yep. And then this one, I don't know what this parallel is. This could be like very rare. I haven't looked it up yet. This is a Julian Sayin NIL Prism card. That's a pink shimmer. And this thing might be like a very, very big short print. Like, I don't know what that one's worth yet, but like, I'm like excited to go check out what I can't find the comp. So I don't know if it's very rare or if it's just very new, but I've got a stack of cards here that I'm going through. Trey Hendrickson and Score, got a lot of really, really cool. It's just a fun rip. And you want to know what? I got to take a minute to like, give a salute to my guys at Panini, Andy. They sent me this one just raw because they know that I wanted it. This is a Campus Legends contender Jeremiah Smith card because this is a contender NIL card, and this one's numbered to 199. But they've been listening to our show, obviously, because they love college football and we're sponsors, but they know how I feel about Jeremiah Smith being one of the best receivers I've ever seen in college. So they did that for me as well. But Luminance is out now. Go get it. It's a really, really great product. And the pictures are so good. The pictures are so good. There's Damian Martinez. I don't know. Am I doing a good job here?
You're doing a great job. Visit PaniniAmerica.net to collect your favorite college and NFL stars. Ari, let's deep into the numbers. And I'm not talking about the statistics. I'm talking about the actual cash that people are putting down. Fascinating stuff. We get these emails from John Ewing, who is the insights manager at BetMGM, and we get them multiple times a week, and they help explain the world as seen through the eyes of the sports book. And I think there's a couple things going on this week that are very, very interesting trends. So let's talk to John Ewing, insights manager from BetMGM. John, I love the emails we get from you because it fascinates me to see the behavior of how people are spending their actual money, how people are laying their actual money on these games, on these futures. And one thing that jumped out to me in the one you sent after week one is Alabama still led in terms of percentage of handle in bets to win the SEC championship. And I'm curious because that was obviously the day after they lost to Florida State, or a couple days after they lost to Florida State. Has that changed? Has somebody else jumped up?
Yeah, we're seeing pretty balanced action across three teams. Texas, LSU, and Alabama all have nearly 20% of the money on them right now. So no clear favorite from a betting perspective in terms of which side the public is supporting. But all three obviously still have anywhere from 3 to 7 to 1 odds to win the SEC. One team that people, and especially the bettors, aren't focused on right now, at least, is Georgia. They're plus 250 favorites. So they're flying under the radar right now as more attention is going towards Texas, LSU, and Alabama.
Is that because people are trying to get value at this point? Like if the odds changed a little bit, like it's a non-conference game, you might not think Alabama's cooked. If you can get it at a better number with no SEC games on their record, like is that what people are doing, you think?
Yeah, often you'll see, you have like a tier, right, of contenders, which those four teams clearly are, and whichever one is the favorite often won't have as many bets just because someone goes, why bet 100 to win 250 when I could bet 100 to win 650 on Alabama? So bang for your buck is usually where bettors lean towards.
Another thing I found interesting is coming out of last weekend, immediately after last weekend, Penn State had the highest handle and ticket percentage in terms of the national title future bet. Are they still there, or is somebody else? Because I wonder if Ohio State beating Texas or LSU beating Clemson, did that change that?
They still technically are the most bet, but it is really close between them. You got Texas and LSU from the SEC, and then of course Ohio State after their big win last week against the Horns. LSU is maybe the most interesting. They opened at 20 to 1 in the preseason. They had already been bet down to 14 to 1 last week. Then they get their impressive win against Clemson, and now they're at 10 to 1 to win the national championship. And a team that bettors are pushing up the ladder there in terms of most bet teams.
Hey, John, a lot of these insights that you send, I think, are super fascinating because I like seeing where the public money is going. When you see like most tickets or biggest liability, How often are the people who are creating the biggest liability correct? Or if you're a bettor, do you try to stay away from those people?
It really varies. I mean, that's what's great about football, right? The favorite doesn't always win. If it did, we would never bet on it. So you have, the public and you have sharp bettors, and sharp bettors tend to win more often than not, but still you're talking, they'd be happy with the 55, 57% win rate against the spread, right? So that doesn't sound like a lot, but over the long run, it can be profitable for them. Still, just because a line moves one way or there's lopsided action, we see very often it doesn't always work out for the bettors.
So before the North Carolina TCU game, you sent out that I believe 81% of the money was on TCU. This was the day of the game. How much of that do you think was sharp money versus the public? Because I would assume the public would have been all over Belichick, but it seems like people who knew the rosters kind of knew it was going to happen.
Yeah, it was more sharp action there in that situation because the betting in terms of tickets was more balanced. And TCU opened 2.5, moved through the key number of 3, and closed at -3.5, and it never was really close. That was the game that bettors had the most success in week 1 against the sportsbook.
John, I'm looking at the Big Ten on the insights that you sent out, and the favorite is Ohio State, but the highest ticket percentage is Penn State at 23.3%. Highest handle percentage is 29.2% for Penn State, and the biggest liability is Penn State. Is MGM a huge Ohio State fan right now? And like, how often do you see? How often do you see a team that is probably still the favorite from a talent composition standpoint, like lose out this much action on a team that people think might have a chance to break through?
Yeah, that's one of those situations where right now it's Penn State, but again, Ohio State was getting just under 20% of the money. So they're not lagging that far behind. And over the course of the season, I'd imagine it gets even more balanced out between Ohio State, Penn State, and maybe if there's another surprise team that makes a run. Last year, like Indiana was on a heater and their odds moved dramatically, and they also took a decent amount of action as bettors were looking to cash a long shot.
So before we started recording, you were telling us about a trend that you noticed involving teams that are still in the top 10 that lost their first game. And I'm fascinated by this because I'm looking at Clemson, Troy, and Texas, San Jose State.
Yep.
And what you've noticed, like I'm looking at these in a whole new light now.
Yeah, so Texas, Clemson both lose in week 1, but they remain in the top 10. That doesn't happen very often. Usually if you lose, you fall down further. But let's say you're one of these teams historically, since 2005, top 10 team after a loss in the regular season has gone 50-78 against the spread in their next game. So that's a 39% win rate, including going 0-4 against the spread if they lost in week 1, like Texas and Clemson. So this weekend, it's a get-right spot for both teams. They're favored by 30-plus points against inferior competition. But historically, covering 7-8 touchdowns is just hard, no matter how good of a team you are.
When you are doing these lists and compiling them, are you often or ever surprised by what you find? And if so, was there anything from this past week after the week 1 actions that jumped out at you?
Yeah, 9 times out of 10, the most bet games, the most bet teams are going to be ranked in the top 25, right? It just makes sense. They're often the best teams. They're teams that bettors are most familiar with. They're the ones that are on TV. But this week, one that kind of jumped out to me was Missouri, Kansas, an old Big 12 showdown here. First time they've played since 2011. Mizzou's a 6.5-point favorite at home. But what's interesting, bettors are on the Jayhawks. Nearly 90% of money is on them, plus 200 to pull the upset. Kansas has an interesting offense. They have a Heisman hopeful, and Jaden Daniels, he's at 50-1. His odds have come down. I believe they were 200-1 in the preseason. I'll have to go back and check my notes, but a fun game to have back on the schedule. And as a Mizzou alumni, I hope bettors are wrong. I'm going to be back in my Tigers. I think they have a defense that can slow Kansas down. And I know we still have some question marks at quarterback, but you can't bet against your favorite team, right?
Yeah, I think that people who bet
Well,
against their
you
favorite
can.
team are psychotic. I don't know, like these people who like hedge your happiness, where it's like I'm going to bet against my favorite team, and if I'm wrong, I'll lose money, but I'll gladly pay the money to be happy with my personal interest. When you say 90% of the actions on Kansas money line, you just mean like people who bet money line to win, like
Right. Yeah. So of all
Yeah.
the money wagered, 90% is on Kansas at the 2-1.
Which makes sense to me. I mean, because Ari in our pick show picked Kansas strictly because this felt like too many points. This, looking at this felt like this would have been Mizzou -3, -3.5, and I still went with your guys, John. So I want some credit if Missouri covers here.
All the credit to you, all the blame to me if it goes wrong for you.
Yeah, the line opened at 7.5, and I believe it's moved down to under a touchdown now. So I think that like the line is being bet down a little bit. Do you play individual games yourself, and which ones do you like this week?
I do. I'm not just
Shocker.
I don't just work for BetMGM. I also like to wager myself. So a couple games we touch on real fast that are the most bet. Michigan, Oklahoma, I mentioned earlier, ranked teams always get the most action, and a top 25 matchup is definitely being signaled out here by bettors. Action's coming in on the Wolverines, 60% of bets, 57% of money. Nothing lopsided, but we continue to see the line move towards the Sooners. They opened 3. Now they're at 5.5. So getting up there towards that, almost a touchdown favorite against Michigan, even though the money's coming in on the Wolverines.
Why is that happening? How does that work?
That's one of those situations where the public is backing Michigan, but sharp money is on the Sooners.
Interesting. And I picked Oklahoma for that. The reason I picked Oklahoma is true freshman starting quarterback, first road start against notoriously confusing defense. That's really what it came down to. But is this one of those when you have these schools that have these massive alumni bases, do you get this just infusion of public money with the Michigans, the Ohio States of the world?
You definitely see that. I mean, again, everyone's a homer, myself included. I just said I'm taking the Tigers. I'm laying the points. And BetMGM has a very strong presence in Michigan, so we often see lopsided action on local teams. The Lions in the NFL, for example, get just waves of money on them, especially in the last year when they've really been good and their offense has been explosive.
Do you guys have to adjust your lines when that happens based on where you guys are heavy?
We try not to overreact, but if there's enough money that comes in, then yes, we will adjust. The trading team is always willing to move a line.
Yeah, I would feel like if I had a property in Detroit and I knew everybody was going to bet on Michigan and the Lions every week, no matter what, I would just warp the line 5 points. Because they're going to do it anyway.
That's why they'll never hire you, Ari.
Yeah, no, I know. But
too reactionary.
When you are looking through these numbers and stuff, as the season goes on, everything from today is going to change, right? Like, when do you think is the best time to place a futures bet? Do you think it's in the summer before the lines get sharp? Do you think it's once you have a few weeks of information, you might be sacrificing a little bit of value, but you get a better idea of what you're betting on? Like, what's the best time to you?
Me personally, I think buying low, buy the dip, right? Alabama was a team many considered not only a contender for the SEC, but a national championship, a team that can make the playoffs. They looked awful in week 1. It happens, right? So, and their odds have adjusted accordingly. But if you liked them in the preseason, why would you not, get the better value now? Now, of course, maybe this team isn't Nick Saban like, and that defense made too many mistakes, but we'll see. But I think buying the dip after a big loss, especially in a high-profile game, usually can add a little value to the odds.
So you hear that, Alabama fans? We're not all negative Nellies here. It's not all gloom and doom. There's opportunity here. Opportunity. John, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Appreciate you.
That is John Ewing from BetMGM. He's the Insights Manager. You're going to see him every couple of weeks on this show. Ari, we had Tyler Shoemaker on last week from VEASAN, who did very well last week. So I know some folks have reached out to you asking if Tyler's got any picks this week. You did reach out to him, and he provided a few for us.
Yeah, I don't reach out to him. I text him incessantly because I'm doing one of these too. Since he's not on the show this week, and we'll have him on and John Ewing on all off season because they're both really, really smart. But I wanted to give you individual plays from Tyler that are his best bets this week. That would be Virginia +3. The other one is Duke +3 against Illinois, which is a game that we discussed amongst each other, and we're on opposite sides.
And you and Tyler are on the same side of that.
Yeah. And then the last one is Fresno State +3. So those are the three that he's got his list of 50 games he's betting, but like those are the ones that the numbers are strongest against. And yeah, I wanted to give those to you because I know there are a lot of
Fresno State is playing Oregon State this weekend.
Yeah, and I don't know if the Malik Murphy sideline meltdown is playing a factor in this, but obviously it's all data with Tyler. So I wanted to relay that to you guys.
Virginia playing at NC State, which is very interesting. NC State, not an easy win against East Carolina week 1, but that game is never really easy for NC State. So, but they had some. Yeah, I like CJ Bailey a lot, but yeah, Virginia at NC State, that is a fascinating game as well. So, all right, next up, your questions. Dear Andy, dear Ari, we got some great ones this week. First one comes from another Andy, not me. It's funny because a lot of times people do these segments and the hosts just make up the questions. We never have to because we get great questions from everybody.
Yeah,
but this is
and Britt and I are going to see a financial advisor on Friday for the first time to try to figure out how to be smart with our money because I don't think that we are. And his name is Andy, and I thought that was funny.
Well, he's better with money than me, I guarantee you that. So good luck to that, Andy, with Ari's spending. All right, this Andy says, "Dear Andy and Ari, what Big 12 and ACC teams, not Miami, Florida State, or Clemson, could consistently compete for national championships if they were in the Big 10, SEC, or if there was one Power 4 TV contract with equal distribution like the NFL has?" That's a really good question. And we've talked about the idea of what Big 12 teams might be able to enter that mix, what ACC teams. So if you gave them that level of money, and obviously we're taking Miami, Florida State, and Clemson out of the mix because we think they can do that already. And they've proven, or at least, Florida State and Clemson have won national titles in the last 12 years. And then Miami obviously looks like it is one of the best teams in the country right now. So they've already proven they can do it. And obviously if it all went down and the ACC were to blow up, they would have homes in one of the Big 10 of the SEC. But who else? Who else?
There are teams that will jump out to us. It's the same teams that we'd always say. I know exactly which teams you're going to say. And it's the same teams that I'm going to say because it's the same teams that everybody would say, right?
Who is it?
North Carolina and SMU would be the first two that pop up into my head. Georgia Tech, maybe, because they're in Atlanta. But those would be the big three, maybe Virginia Tech. But
I think Louisville would do amazing with SEC or Big 10 money because I think they've done really well without it.
The question that I have, though, is I think that there's this general assumption that because the ACC is a step behind financially, that they're not able to compete at the highest level in the middle to bottom tiers of the conference. Mm-hmm. But I think that it's also important to point out that the Big 10 and the SEC also have middle to bottom tiers that are a part of those deals that aren't competing for championships. So I don't think that if Louisville got invited to the Big 10 tomorrow, that all of a sudden they're going to start competing for national titles. I think that there's more to it.
But they have prioritized football more over the years than, say, Purdue has.
Yeah, but I also think that we're in the middle of that changing. I think that a lot of teams are going to start prioritizing football, and they're still going to be a bottom and middle tier. I think that it would be an interesting ranking, and I don't know if now's the time to do it. But if you assigned 100% commitment to football for every team in college football, like who would still be in the middle, bottom, and top tier? Like if everybody was equally committed to it, like
Well, so the Andy also asked about the Big 12, and so we've got the experiment going on this year with Texas Tech, where they essentially got the budget of a Big 10 or SEC team. So we'll see how that works. But other schools in the Big 12 that I think could be in that mix, I think Baylor and TCU are pretty similar to SMU in profile in terms of they are smaller private schools, but they do have some very well-heeled donors who love football. So I think they're ones that if you think SMU could do it, which I do, I think Baylor or TCU would be in the same boat if you gave them SEC Big 10 TV money.
Yeah. The thing is when you're playing in the conference, you're playing against everybody else that has the same resources. So you also have to do things. I still think that at times, and I don't know if you agree with this, but geography and tradition and your helmet play a huge factor in that. And I don't know if like upping the budget is the only thing that matters.
It's not the only thing that matters, but I think the people who've proven they can handle money well, that they can get more from less. If you suddenly gave them more, what do? Utah's another one that I think would be really interesting because we have seen them jump up in conference. And all right, let me ask you, think about this. Of the teams that moved conferences in all this realignment, is Utah the most successful in terms of a team that jumped up a conference because they jumped from the Mountain West to the Pac-12? They won the Pac-12 twice.
Yeah.
In the final 3 years of the Pac-12.
I just got done saying that we don't do good with money in my house. I think we actually do pretty good at it.
I think you do too.
We have no debt. So that's good. Like that's the number one indicator of how good you are with money. But I do sometimes think like if Shannon Terry were to call me and he would be like, "Hey, Ari, I just want you to know that we're going to start paying you $1 million a year." Like I wonder.
I really want that phone call. That's all I know.
You're more likely to get it than me after the story you wrote yesterday. But if the influx of more money could make you more irresponsible.
Well, I think we've seen that, and you've seen it with athletes that get money early and the rate of bankruptcy
they weren't good
among
with a little money either. They just didn't have a lot of money before it, and they just didn't know. But like, could you go from responsible with money with like normal salary to irresponsible because you have so much money?
You think I get completely irresponsible? Like you just jacked up my salary? I don't know. I think at this age, I would probably be fairly responsible with it. I think if I was younger, I would be like, "Woo, let's go."
You wouldn't just go buy
going to Cabo.
I just spend all my money at Panini and buy bigger boxes and buy other cars and jewelry and things. I think I would be like, I would do it too. So but the reason why I bring that up, Andy, is just because a team gets more money doesn't mean that they're going to be responsible with how to use it.
Yeah, because I think the ones that have been will continue to be.
Yeah, like if you think that Utah doing less with more consistently is a good indication that they would do more with more.
Yeah, I do. Also, it helps that really good linemen grow up in Salt Lake City.
Yeah, and those are the certain things that have no bearing on your budget.
Yeah.
So your geography, I know that we have done a lot to downplay the importance of geographical, connection to players, given that's the NIL era and airplanes are pretty accessible now. But I still think that being closer to home still matters. And if you are closer to home to better players, like the reason why I like North Carolina is a very underrated state for talent, and it borders a lot of really deep talent states. And it's a good school. It's got cool uniforms and a recognizable uniform. So like from that aspect, like I've always thought that they were really, really good. And it's part of the reason why all the sleeping giants are cliched. But if North Carolina got a bunch more money from the Big Ten television deal, and then North Carolina's administration was like, we're going to weaponize this and we're going to own it. Like, I think that they would have a head start from a team like Louisville, who is in a state that doesn't really have a ton of talent. Now,
except I don't know. I think I would have hired Jeff Brom over Bill Belichick.
Which then makes you wonder:
is North Carolina good with money? Like, are we sure about
North Carolina's good with money, right? And I think that is a layer of this of like not just giving them money, but who's going to go invest their money in the right things and who's going to go buy nice cars. Like you want to make sure you're getting it to the people who are going to invest.
North Carolina bought the Lambo SUV. Like they wasted their money.
Wait a minute. You're going to get some back. If you wrote that column, you would be public enemy number one. Because I found out working at On3 that if you say things into a microphone, it's okay. But if you write it, you're freaking toast. You just said that buying Bill Belichick was buying a Urus. That's what you just said.
Yeah, Lamborghini Uranus. Yeah. A Lamborghini urologist.
You're calling Bill Belichick a very flashy depreciation.
Jeff Brom is that 1995 Honda Accord that he drove for like 30 years. That just keeps going. It just keeps chugging through the miles and churning them out and winning every time. Like winning consistently.
Andy Staples, Bill Belichick is a flashy, expensive, depreciating asset.
Yes, that's exactly right. I think you nailed it. What a headline!
You said it. I'm separating myself from that.
I'm gonna leave that in the realm of said into the microphone rather than typed out.
That would be a killer column for On3. Staples, why Bill Belichick reminds me of the Lamborghini Urus.
Oh my God! Yeah, I think I'd get in trouble for that one. We'll see. Maybe. Look,
I still have Nebraska fans popping up in my mentions every day. So, like, I don't know.
If they lost, well, first of all, I don't think North Carolina fans are particularly thrilled with Bill Belichick right now. But if they lost to Charlotte, I think I'd crank that one out.
Okay.
I don't think they're going to lose to Charlotte.
Put it in the file. Do you have a little notes pad on your desktop computer?
No, but I need to start doing that. But yes, if they lost to Charlotte or Richmond, I think that's an automatic column. And then we'll see how it goes when they play the better teams in their schedule.
Yeah, I've got a list of ideas that I go through on Saturday, and it's like if this or this happens, here are the 7 ideas that I've written down that I'm going to write right now. Like because you have to wait for them to be appropriate too, you know.
Exactly.
But I don't know that losing by 40 points in your home field in an opener doesn't mean it's appropriate at the moment. But you know, losing to Charlotte,
I want to give him a little more time. It's
because I feel like if he loses to Charlotte, that would be like buying the Urus and then wrecking it. You haven't even given him time to depreciate yet. He's only a week old. But
buying the Urus, opting not to insure it, and then wrecking it. Yeah, that's what that would be. So, all right, let us move on. We've got a couple of questions that I feel like are.
Andy. This is a batshit crazy show. I don't know if you know that.
It's the last weekday show of the week, and we have been rolling really since the season started last Thursday. We're just going live we've actually put out, I think, 11 shows in the last week or maybe 12. So at this point, our brains are fried. Like we kind of need Friday to get back to reality for us. But
yeah.
I'm diving right back in. Ari.
Friday's our easiest day of the week, but during the season, it's not. The Friday evenings become difficult because one of us is on duty for the Friday night game. And it reminds me to say to you all, I'm sorry, we don't really have a compelling Friday night matchup to talk about this week. It sucks. And
because the NFL has a Friday night game. That's why.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes is playing on Friday night.
Yeah. And big come up in Ari's house. My wife is at a work dinner event tonight. So I get to put the baby down at 7:20 or 7 o'clock and then tune right into the NFL opener on Thursday night. And then Friday night, she's doing a little slumber party with our daughter downstairs watching Disney movies and getting popcorn, and they're eating together. And I have the Brazil game to myself tomorrow. Like this is the next 3 days are like alone with football for me.
It's beautiful.
Maybe a pizza might find its way in there somewhere too. I don't know.
Well, then you're not truly alone. All right. We're going to keep the show off the rails because we're diving back into the Alabama well. These two questions are fairly related. From Richard, question for the show. Do we owe Les Miles an apology? For 20 years now, the narrative has been Les took the reins from Nick Saban at LSU and rode his coattails to 10-win seasons and a national title in 2007. Is Kalen DeBoer showing there may have been more to it than that? Does Kalen put Les in a better light, or does Les shine a harsher light on DeBoer? We'll start with that one. I think Les Miles getting back to the national title game, putting together maybe the best regular season anybody's ever put together in 2011, and then repeatedly being one of the better teams in college football, long past when Nick Saban coached there, I think that probably vindicates him plenty. I mean, Les's biggest problem was not being able to beat Nick Saban.
I still can't believe that 2011 team did not score in the title game.
I can. They tried to run the option with Justin Jefferson.
Yeah. I mean, but to go through the season and then beating the team that you lost to, like not scoring at all, is still kind of crazy. But so I think that there is multiple schools of thought on this question, Andy, and I'm very curious what your answer to this is how many years does it take before it's your team? And I think that the answer to that has changed in this era, because back then when you took over Nick Saban's program, you had Nick Saban's program for 2 or 3 years. Players weren't leaving as quickly. The things that are in place are already in place. Like, I think that comparing what Les Miles did to what Kalen DeBoer is going through now is a very different proposition. Even though they both took over for legends, the same person, you had more time to kind of use that as a stability. I think
Kalen DeBoer would be getting less criticism now if the whole program had bailed after Saban retired. Yeah. If it had been more than Caleb Downs. I think one of the reasons he's getting so much criticism right now is because most of Alabama's starters were recruited by Nick Saban. So he is still using a healthy chunk of Nick Saban players.
Yeah.
And not performing the way he should be with them.
But Alabama wasn't like peak Alabama when Saban retired either. I think that's important. Like, they were
but they did win the SEC.
Yeah.
And lose in overtime to the eventual national champ in the semifinals his last year.
Yeah. I think that you're probably right. I think you checked me on that. That's probably right. I don't know if I have more respect for coaches who took over for legends in 2011 than I do. Like, I think it's a different situation still, because like
it is a different situation because it is, and we've talked about what's the statute of limitations for the coaches who take over for the fired guy. Like, what's the statute of limitations on complaining about what the guy left you? We did that with Venables a few weeks ago. We did that with Lincoln Riley this time last year. Like, you don't get to do that anymore in year 3 and year 4. So I do think that is kind of one of the things that is hurting Kalen DeBoer right now, because if everybody just bailed when Saban left, I think the 9-3 record last year and a loss to Florida State opening this season would not have been into the world situations. But because we're still seeing so many players that Saban brought to Tuscaloosa on Alabama's roster, we're like, wait a second. How come he could do that and you can't? So that's the issue. All right. Now we go to Jamie. This is Jamie who keeps track of our quarterback fantasy scoring, which I really appreciate. Yeah. The rest of Alabama's 2025 season will be fascinating, Jamie writes. Doom and gloomers are predicting they go 7-5. Given their loaded roster, though, they could still conceivably go 10-2 or 9-3. Here's the fascinating part. If Georgia blows them out in Athens, will an Alabama team, for the first time since the Mike Shula days, have to face the idea that, quote, we may suck? That, coupled with the intense scrutiny of a fan base that hasn't felt true college football pain in a generation, could really snowball and break the team's spirit. Which outcome do you think is most likely? I don't really want to predict this, and I don't think we can predict this. I mean, I'm sure there's some people who think they know, they'll definitely bounce back, or, this is all going to fall apart. I don't know that. I think they've got they've got a get-right game here against Louisiana Monroe. They get Wisconsin next week, which, listen, we saw that Alabama team that lost to Vanderbilt, that lost to Oklahoma, that lost to Michigan. We saw them destroy Wisconsin last year. And I would argue that this Wisconsin team probably not as good as that Wisconsin team.
Yeah. I think with Alabama, too, it's important to realize that, and I've gotten into trouble with Ralph Russo in the past because I say teams suck when they're actually very good in comparison to 85% of the other teams in the country. And I just say suck in their terms. Like, what does Alabama sucking look like in their terms? And I think we
You mean to an Alabama fan?
An Alabama fan, 8-4, they suck, right?
That is an Alabama fan would consider 8-4 an abject disaster. 7-5 is even worse. Like that would, and that's what the part everybody needs to understand. Like when we write this stuff and we talk about DeBoer, you're looking at it through your prism. Well, I wish my team had gone 9-3 last year. Well, they don't. That's a failure for them.
So I don't think that they're going to suck in the way that everybody would suck, like that level, because I think like 6-6, 5-7 type of, that's actually sucking. Like, I don't think that's on the table. But what I do think is on the table is an 8-4 season where we have to spend the entire next offseason not talking about how much pressure Kalen DeBoer is under or whether or not he should have his job still, but whether or not, when you zoom out, Alabama is a program that is good but not great without the help of legendary coaches, because you can't separate the bulk of their success from the people who had the bulk of that success. And I wonder, and I wondered when Kalen DeBoer took over, not because I don't think he's a good coach, but just because I think the level of greatness expected there might not match like what their actual program represents without Nick Saban. If like he was ever going to be successful, because whatever he did, even if it would be successful or a very good job, wouldn't be recognized. It's kind of like, I feel like Kalen DeBoer took a job and now has bosses and constituents or the fans that have unrealistic expectations. So even when he does an above average to good job, it's not recognized as a good job. And I wonder if we're in the transition of Alabama's fans and program having to readjust their expectations of what a good job actually looks like, unless they fall back into finding another amazing legendary coach.
The problem is they're going to look at Georgia and they're going to look at LSU and they're going to look at whoever else is good in the SEC, Texas. They're like, well, that guy's doing a good job. He's winning here.
This is the debate that we have every offseason. Even when Nick Saban was the coach, we had this debate every offseason about Bama. If you did job rankings, which we did, Alabama's not number one.
People always got mad about that. And I said, do not separate, do not conflate the coach and the job.
Right. And I wonder if when we are conflating the coach from the job, if Alabama fans have been trained through years of positive brainwashing of success, that their program, because like Georgia at its baseline, Alabama at its baseline, Ohio State at its baseline, Texas at its baseline is last place in comparison of like what is the best job, right? Is that fair? You would take those three jobs of those four, like Texas.
Alabama's last of those four, correct?
Look at
yes,
Alabama's
I would.
Number
yes,
7 on your list. Alabama's number 7 on your list. Mm-hmm. Number 7 on my list. We agreed. I don't remember that, but we agreed. You have, and like A&M, I might have like gone a little crazy on. I still think it's a great job. You did.
Yeah.
But if they are number 7 on our jobs list, then shouldn't that correlate to what reasonable expectations are for their fans? And I think that if you look at all the
but here's the thing. Look at those lists. Look at those lists. 8-4 is a bad year at all those places, except for Texas A&M, which is why you shouldn't have them on there.
I know, but a lot of I think 8-4 is the reason they paid all these buyouts. What are you talking about? They don't accept 8-4 there. But what I'm saying is Alabama has won national titles so much more frequently. Texas hasn't won a national championship in 20 years, and they're number 1 on my list. And I think that the expectations need to match where they would be on their list if you remove the coach from the equation. Right. So, I think that if Kalen DeBoer goes 10-2 and makes it to the college football playoff semifinal in year 2, which now seems like a pretty tough proposition, that would be an exceptional job. And I think that would be the baseline of what Alabama fans would tolerate. And that's toxic. And that's what causes issues to me.
Well, we're going to find out. We're going to let this play out. We've talked this to death this week. We're going to let it play out. Obviously, they lose Louisiana Monroe. We can just we'll start the coaching search next week. But
Andy,
I don't think that's what's going to happen. So
you wrote this story with Chris Lowe about Alabama on Wednesday. Very tremendously well done story, and you guys did reporting on it. If when you were asked to do it, your boss called you an hour after he asked you to do it and said, where is this? And was mad at you. And then on Monday, he was like, where is this? And was mad at you and didn't understand that reporting and writing takes time. A few days. And then you wrote this wonderful story that everybody loved and everybody read, but your boss was disappointed that it took so long because they didn't understand how journalism works. That's a really tough situation, and that's Alabama football right now.
If my predecessor had done a bunch of reporting already and handed me a bunch of money quotes, I would turn that story around pretty fast.
Yeah, I guess.
Is Alabama not a top 5 roster?
I'm wondering if my analogy is bad or if you got me. I'm trying to think.
I got you.
Yeah.
That's the difference. I mean, that really is the difference in your analogy.
Your predecessor was one of the best writers of all time and one of the best reporters of all time.
But he's not asking me to write we were saying it's Gary Smith, by the way, former Sports Illustrated feature writer who talked to at least 50 people before he would sit down to write anything. If you haven't read a bunch of Gary Smith stories, just Google them. The Pat Summitt one is one of my favorites. Just incredible. The one about the race walker is incredible. So just public service announcement there. But they're not expecting me to write a Gary Smith story. They're expecting me to write a competent story that goes 10-2. They're not expecting me to go 12-0, 10-2.
Yeah. But my point is that eventually 10-2 is not going to be good enough.
Well, no, 10-2 is probably not good enough now, but it's good it's acceptable until you can go 11-1.
Context of what we saw on Saturday, but that wasn't good.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay.
But the problem is 10-2. The problem is 10-2 may be an impossibility. And if 10-2 is an impossibility, you got a bigger problem.
But I think it's harder to analyze whether Kalen DeBoer is doing a good or a bad job, and it will get harder as Nick Saban's players shuffle out and his players come in.
I don't think it'll be hard at all.
If he makes it to year 5 and 6, and he's a 9-3, 10-2 team every other year, they have 1 year every 4 or 5 years where they make a deep run in the college football playoff. He may win one national title every 12 years. That's probably going to be okay. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's probably going to be okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So, but you can't fall off the table right now. That's the problem. You got to stay in the mix right now. Can't fall off the table. One more question. Steve in San Antonio, one of our favorites. Andy, I'm an educated person as you are. Ari, well, he did go to Arizona. I love geography. Most people I know don't seem to share the same passion. Maybe it's a Florida thing, but can you help me out with something? UCF is in Orlando. No problem there because Orlando is actually in Central Florida. Please explain to me how USF is located in Tampa. Tampa is nowhere near the actual South Florida. South Florida is Fort Myers, Miami, West Palm Beach, etc. It's like saying Lubbock is in West Texas, which it's not. Okay, so here, let me help you with this. I'll give you the real reason. So USF, by the way, the Bulls going to Gainesville to play the University of Florida. Now, Florida is not a place that does UF-city name. So it's not like there's no UT Martin. Like there's not a University of Florida Fort Myers. That's Florida Gulf Coast University. So they put the geographical moniker, the directional school name on the schools. USF opened, I believe, in the 70s. And when they opened it, they're trying to figure out what to name it. So I will push back on Steve a little bit. He says, Fort Myers is South Florida. South Florida, the region, is actually to a Floridian, that is the East Coast. That is Dade, Broward, Palm Beach, and Monroe County. So that's Dade, Broward, Palm Beach, and the Keys. That's South Florida. Southwest Florida is what he's talking about. Fort Myers, Lee County, Naples, Collier County, probably basically Sarasota on down, Southwest Florida. Tampa is its own region. The Tampa Bay area is its own region. It is part of Central Florida, but Orlando is considered really Central Florida. So, but Tampa kind of beats, marches to the beat of its own drum. The problem is when they created this university, the logical name for it would have been the University of Tampa, but there already was a University of Tampa, very old school. It's a private school. They've got the Russian minarets. It's a beautiful campus down, near downtown Tampa. They used to have a football program. Freddie Solomon, who played for the 49ers, he played there. So they couldn't name it University of Tampa. There was already a University of West Florida in Pensacola, which should have been called Panhandle State University. Let's be real.
It would have been badass, yeah.
Yeah. So it can't be West Florida. And if we're being geographically correct, Pensacola is very far west of Tampa. So there wasn't a lot of good options because you can't name it UF Tampa. You can't name it University of Tampa, and you can't name it the University of West Florida. So they said USF. That's what they were sticking with. They could sell the naming rights. I mean, it's right next to Busch Gardens. They should call it Busch Gardens University.
I'm trying to think. This is going to make me go on a rant about how I think Rutgers would be more successful as a program if they were New Jersey State.
No, they would be the University of New Jersey. They wouldn't be New Jersey State.
Whatever they would be. If this name New Jersey was in there.
Yeah, Rutgers sounds like a private school. University of New Jersey sounds
is
like
Rutgers
the big state
someone's
university.
Name?
I think so.
Yeah, I don't even know what Rutgers means. It's nonsense, and it hurts them in their profile, I think. But I guess we could get some help in like renaming them. But I tweeted, and I don't know if this question was
Colonel Henry Rutgers was a Revolutionary War hero.
It's electric. I tweeted when USF was playing Boise the other night, I will never understand in a million years why USF is called USF. It's in Tampa. And USF people came after me hard. And they weren't even like, they were just like,
why?
They were mad. They're like, F you, worry about your own program.
What?
All that. They were mad that I was
It is geographically nonsensical.
Yeah.
It's true.
But it we should take the weekend and take some suggestions of what you would name it. New naming of, but I feel this would be highly offensive to a lot of people who like USF. So I don't know. Just beware.
Yeah.
But I offended Rutgers too. They're catching strays in this.
Listen, we've at this point in this show, we've offended literally everyone.
But yeah, like what are the worst names of college football teams is a good topic. And I think that USF and
college of universities, not the teams.
Yeah. The university names. Yeah. And most like 95% of them are all named after just Arizona State, Boise State, USC.
Boise's not a state, Ari.
I know. So maybe you could add it on the list. Boise's but there's a lot of teams
but Boise State is named in the same way that Memphis used to be named. Remember when Anthony Hardaway played for Memphis, it was called Memphis State.
Yeah. But that makes sense because it's the state university.
It's the state university in Memphis, yes.
So
state university in Memphis. Yeah.
I actually think that everybody that has state at the end of their name is cooler than regular. Because it feels more college football-y to me.
Well, that's interesting because LSU
is a cooler name than Arizona to me.
But LSU is the flagship, and Ohio State is the flagship. But those are the only two flagships that are state.
I don't even know what that means.
Well,
yeah,
I'll get a lot of people arguing with me about what's a flagship, and because like in Texas, University of Texas is the flagship of the UT system. Texas A&M is the flagship of the A&M system. So, but it is the one that is the major university in the state, the one that gets all the money, the one that gets the highest level of prestige. And Ohio State and Louisiana State are the only ones that do it like that, where it's not just the university of the state name. There is Ohio University. There's not a University of Ohio that is more prestigious than Ohio State.
Got it. Thank you
for that. But yeah, that's why. And like Florida people constantly needle Florida State people when they say like we're the flagship. So
okay. If you are a football fan and you're using that as like your superiority argument, you're a loser, just so you know.
Pretty much.
There are things that if you ever have argued about academic prestige or flagship programs or anything.
No one has ever argued about academic prestige when their football team was winning against the other person's team.
It's just not a good argument for you. So, we're talking about football. Listen, Harvard, congratulations. You have great academic prestige and you can brag about it in other ways that have nothing to do with football. But this is a football show and we're talking about football.
Hey, Princeton has 28 national titles that it claims. So there you go. Yeah. All right. One more thing before we go. We had Mickey Joseph on the show over the summer. Very good dude. Former assistant at LSU, at Nebraska. You saw what he did at LSU. Like the thing, all those receivers that are just lighting up the NFL that played at LSU. Mickey Joseph had a heavy hand in recruiting. He's seen players like he's going to see at Ohio State this weekend. Up close. He's recruited a bunch of players just like that throughout his years as a big time, power conference assistant. He's the head coach at Grambling now. Grambling is playing at Ohio State. We do not have a point spread on there because it is not even on the board. Mickey Joseph got asked about going to Ohio State with Grambling.
Initial thoughts on the defending champs?
Well, first of all, they got a great band. And we have a great band. And we're going to compete as a band.
He's just joking, of course, but not really. And I got to tell you, Ari, best damn band in the land versus the world-famed Tiger Marching Band. Who you got?
I'm unfamiliar with, I'm not a band expert, but like Grambling has a really good band traditionally.
Oh my God. Amazing band.
Then I'll go with them.
This is going to be a hell of a matchup. Because the best damn band in the land, like Ohio State's band, is spectacular. The halftime shows they put together are amazing, but they are about to meet their match. They are usually by far the better band in the stadium. This is going to be a much tighter matchup for the best damn band in the land.
Do you want to
not for the Buckeyes?
Do you want to make up a spread real quick before we go? Like, what should the spread be?
Yeah. I would say because they're at home, and they've got the home crowd, the people that already love them. I would say Ohio State is the best damn band in the land -2.
I meant for the game, but
the world famed Tiger Marching Band.
Yeah,
I would not be shocked. Like, I'd take the money line.
Yeah. Okay. Good for you. All right, Grambling. Good luck.
You wanted me to put a spread on the game?
Yeah, it's like it's over 50.
Probably, but that just depends on when you decide to put your backups in. I mean, that's the other thing, and what you decide to do with your backups. So, these are stay away games.
You see some pretty big spreads. I'm surprised there's no spread anywhere that I can find.
I'm sure. Well, BetMGM's responsible. They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So. Ari, what a week it's been. It's going to be an even better one because we're about to have more football. It's coming. We will see you on Saturday night, 11:30 p.m. Eastern time. We'll break it all down. And I'm going to say this because we've said it. You've heard other people say it. This is not the sexiest slate of games. That usually means a bomb's going to drop. If a bomb drops,